Hi, my name, I'm actually from Canada, so I'll pronounce my name. It's Giles Gauthier. I got a little bit of French in me, so, but just a little funny story to start off with. I'll give you a different name. You can call me if you can't say it. And it really came from the market research industry, and I'm also known in my family as Giles Gunther. My kids, whenever we get a call at supper, they'll say, "Daddy, I think it's a market research company calling for a survey because they're looking for Giles Gunther." So if you want to call me that, I'm called that at home too. So, all right. So for today, what I wanted to present here is a little bit of research on research. I'm the VP of Product Development at iTracks, and one of my passions, on top of being trained in the IT world in computer science, is also user experience. And so when you look at user experience, you want to take a look at the feedback you get. You want to take a look at all the data that you have to enhance and bring back to your team and enhance the product as we go along. So we had some data that we could take a look at. We had some concerns from clients whenever we were talking about mobile when we came out with our mobile products. And so that's really what we're going to look at. We're going to answer a few questions related to our client feedback. So really, it's to talk about how do mobile and online qualitative responses compare. So these are some of the concerns we had or questions we had. So the first thing is really, how does mobile usage impact how I currently collect online qualitative data? And that's really the the overarching question in a bit of this is the unknown. I've been doing this online focus group for how long, and now something's changed. And how is it going to impact? And then the deeper questions start coming in. Obviously, our mobile text response is significantly shorter than browser-based responses. I'm talking about, it sounds very legitimate when you think about it. You got 10 fingers and a big keyboard versus two big thumbs on a small keyboard on a phone. What kind of impacts do we have on that? We'll get into that a little bit. And then, is engagement affected in any way from mobile, positive or negative? This is the type of information we need to find out. So from a technology provider perspective, we take responsibility from a technology and look at that data and change our products according to what we find. And also the fact that in being able to present that data to our researchers, and they can make sense of it and possibly adapt to what they're dealing with to increase their success in an environment that's changed. So again, our research objectives is really to expose the mobile text response lengths versus web response lengths. So we're talking more about open-ended style questions. And then compare mobile versus web engagement and how is that all impacted. So what we did is we have data like this. We have metadata on our products. So we took a look at, we gathered all types of data points in our online qualitative products, iTracks Board and iTracks Mobile, which are connected together. So it becomes an option to use mobile or web. It doesn't really matter. We provide that option to our participants. So we gathered statistics on web posts versus mobile posts. In text, we looked at sub-reply posts, and what that really is in a board-style online focus group, you really want to have that discussion happening. You're looking for the why in qual. And so we want to track how much interaction are you getting back and forth from your participants. So we track that with sub-reply posts between participants and moderators and inter-participant discussions that are happening on the board. We also gathered some data on open-ended response text length. So the first one is how many mobile posts are happening versus web, and the last one is really the text length. Okay, so before we get into answering those and looking at the data, I want to talk a little bit about mobile usage and how it's growing in online qual, and what it looks like for us within our product. And you'll see how it connects a little bit later. So if you look at the graph in front here, the blue bar is all of our posts for over the last 5 months. And the blue ones are, I've also put in there the iOS. I've separated it up by iOS and Android posts. But we'll take a look at the blue ones first. And you can see that we're continuously growing, and I call this organic growth with mobile, because the way we present our platform is we give the participants an option to participate either mobile or web, and it's really their choice on what they prefer. So this is much of a consumer preference that's pushing, the use of mobile. So this is when I look at mobile, I think of, it's a little bit different of a technology that's come in. It's really the participants who are pushing the use of mobile, and not necessarily research that has come in and said, there's a really neat way of doing this, and we're going to try to change it on our participants. So there's some organic growth that's happening like that. Just a little tidbit with iOS and Android, if you look at, we have more than twice the amount of iOS participation, which is completely the reverse with penetration in devices. So I'm presenting that data. I'm not analyzing why that is, but there's lots of different factors into why that could happen. But it's just something it was interesting that came out of the data. Okay, so let's get to the meat of it here with text responses. So how do they compare to web-based responses? So what we did is, for an overall comparison, we captured mobile and web response sizes for all iTracks qualitative discussion boards. We selected boards that had at least over 100 responses from mobile. And then what that gave us with the sample is about 250,000 responses that we went through. And these are all open-ended responses. And so what we got for a result was a little bit what we expected, which was in total, the mobile responses, in compared to the same questions that were asked in web, were 72% the length of web responses. So there is some validation to the thought, well, is mobile a little bit shorter? Now, what we do with this number is, if this is the reality, we take a look at it and say, what is there anything deeper than that, and how can I change as a technology vendor, and how can I change as when I'm putting my research together? So from a technology perspective, we're seeing things that are advancing, like voice to text, all types of different things, like your keyboard being a little bit smarter about how you're typing in, and increasing that rate of comfort in providing longer answers on the mobile. So what we did with this, we wanted to go a little deeper than this. So we wanted to break it down, and we wanted to break it down on different response lengths, and wanted to see is it equal across the board, or is it shorter bursts are okay or equal, versus longer ones start degrading in lengths. So what we got is. So this is the graph that it's not shown up yet, but if you see on the bottom, it's going to have 0 to 20 words, and we've averaged the words about five characters per word. And then that's the way we cut them up. So 0 to 20 words, 20 to 30 word responses, 30 to 40 word web responses, 40 to 50, and 50 plus. So what we got on the 0 to 20 words web responses, we got 98% the length on mobile responses. So it was pretty equal. When we got into 20 to 30 words, that's where we got our most significant drop. Right there, we started getting down to about 78%. And after that, it was 30 to 40 words. It was pretty equal. I think it's a 2% different. And then there's a little bit more of a drop-off from 40 to 50 word responses, and then 50 plus words starts degrading. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this data? So I could tell you that most of our responses, over 65% of our responses, are in the second and third column. And so when we look at this from a moderator perspective, we got to take a look at how do we structure our questions. We've talked about that with quant in other areas, and how a big grid question, we need to split that up. There's some factors in qual that we need to take a look at data like this and see how it impacts how we ask questions in mobile. So we did a little bit of a qualitative analysis on the responses, and we also saw that sometimes we were asking questions that were required 2-3 responses within one question, which could have easily been separated into a few questions that you ask over over 2 or 3 questions. And the responses we were getting, if there was 2 or 3 questions, responses required, where from mobile, you'd get 2 or 3 things answered and one of them is missing somewhere. Because there's no concept of going back and forth and going, did I answer everything that was asked? It's more on recall of what I read the question and I reply because of the small screen factor. So this is just, we're presenting this more as, to equip us as technology providers, but also equip you as moderators in how you set up your qualitative type open-ended questions when they require text. Okay, so the next part, we're going to take a look at participant engagement. And there's tons of benefits with mobile. We've heard it, in the moment, video, pictures, all these advantages that you have with mobile are there. So what we wanted to see is how does the participation change in our focus groups. And so what our objective was to, is that participation similar between web and mobile? So what we did to do this is, again, the sub-response ratios. We took a look at that, mobile versus web users. How much are they interacting by posting back to a moderator probe or engaging with other participants' responses and saying, yeah, Bob, I think that's a great idea, or, what do you mean by that? I do that differently. So how much of that activity is going on in getting the why? That's very important into the why of qual, right? There we go. Okay, so what we knew is historically we had about 17% of web posts were replies, were sub-replies to either a moderator probe or another participant. So that's historically on the web. So what we saw with our mobile was very close. So there wasn't much of a difference. And from a technology perspective, I was happy to see this. Because there's still, to me, there's a lot to improve on in those areas, which we've already started. We've already implemented some solutions that were at least going to get us equal or go beyond. And what that's telling me now is we have an opportunity to go beyond with engagement in qualitative mobile. And the way we do that is to really increase the engagement through probing with automated app notifications. So if my moderator probes me and says, even from the web, says, hey, why did you think that? Or give me a little more insights on why you thought that. If I'm a mobile participant, I get a notification right away that my moderator's asked me a question, and I'm engaging in a discussion right in that time. So what that gives us is now an online qualitative board that's running more asynchronous in that over multiple days, and it's really allowing the interaction to almost come real time because you're catching people with notifications and replying back. So the last point with engagement is going to be this. We're talking about participants all this time. The last point with engagement is really where I believe there's a lot of power of engagement is really the moderator. How much is the moderator engaging with their participants and using mobile? So I think there's a huge advantage there in that as a moderator now, if you flip the coin with notifications, is I can get notified when people are responding, and that I can have that dynamic of back and forth in real time. So I'd really challenge moderators to take a look at moderating from a mobile perspective to increase engagement, and really, if for anything else, using a mobile device to moderate for just the simple reason of sitting in the shoes, as we'd say in usability, sitting in the shoes of your users and understanding them and seeing what the technologies and platforms they're using, and getting yourself insights into how can I change my research and how does it affect my research so I can get better. So all these numbers that we saw today, our goal is, again, as a technology firm, to understand these and adapt to them. But it's also to provide our clients information on the statistics of how their research is going and how they can adapt. So can I get my text response rates going up, and how have you been trending over all of your projects? So then that really about covers what we're showing from a online qual perspective with mobile. Any questions? Or we're down here? Yep.
A quick question about shorter isn't always worse.
No.
It really depends on the context and what folks were saying. Did you do any comparison of the mobile meaning of the comments versus the online?
Yeah, we did a little bit of qualitative that way, and there's certainly factors that even if you don't get to 100% of the length, right, it's still good, because if you talk about in the moment type responses, they seem to be a little bit, there's no recall, and I just tell you exactly how it was, as opposed to I'm trying to remember and almost filling holes in recall. So you're going to spend more time typing it out. So I don't think our ultimate goal in a long answered question is to get to 100% of the web, because there's recall factors in there. So yes, we did see. I actually did a bit of an A/B test with some of our responses, and gave it to people to take a look and say, tell me which one, A or B, are web responses or mobile responses. And you really couldn't get anybody agreeing on it. And in fact, some web responses or mobile responses were astounding. Like I can't believe somebody just typed out those 3 paragraphs on a mobile device. So there's a lot of variety.
So I've experimented with mobile qual and online qual, and I feel there is a little bit of a difference in how you engage. And so I'm kind of curious about your probing in-app and how that differs. Did you see any of that with the probing? I just feel like there's a different way of engaging both.
Yes. Yeah. So what we did is, right now we're collecting more quantifiable data since our release of in-app notifications. But what we did is take a look at it more qualitatively with the data we already have. And we looked at patterns of how people respond versus web. And what we started seeing, and this is just kind of more the qualitative in the area, is we saw patterns of people answering like the first question, second question, and then a moderator coming in and probing on a question they just answered. They had answered the third question, coming back, and the moderator caught them online while they were responding on their mobile. They responded to the probe and went back to question 4, which is more, you don't get that when it's more of a web environment where you sit down and spend a couple hours and look at everybody's responses and kind of do your afterthought and answering. So what we're seeing is we're catching people in the moment while they're responding and they're going through their questions.
So are they engaging with one another online?
Yes.
I didn't get that there.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that engagement between participants. So we're seeing depth of going responses that are going like 5, 6, 7 levels deep of like back and forth between multiple users.
On mobile. I'm sorry, on mobile as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when I talk about mobile, we always talk about our mobile and web is mixed together, right? So it doesn't really matter if you're on mobile or web. Any other questions? Yes, in the back. Well, I could give you my opinion on it. I don't have any statistics with it, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing just what we're looking at is the deployment. And like my thought on it and looking at it, and I'd have to research it to find out if that's exactly right, is I think there's a lot of Apple users that basically buy the device because they know they can use it for that, and they'll pay the premium for it. And I think what we're seeing is if you have 60% Android usage, you're probably getting a population that's going, I've just upgraded my dumb phone to another phone, which happens to be a smartphone, and I didn't really purchase it for those reasons, but I'm starting to use it. But so the usage on the organic usage on the devices look different than the actual deployment. That's my guess. I mean, I'm not. It's definitely not. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd say for what it's worth, I work at Merits Research and we track access to our email invitation surveys, and we see the same thing.
Yeah.
Twice the amount of people coming in on iPhones or the iOS system as there are on Android. So
Yeah.
probably what the expectation is within the device they have
Yeah.
on how it can be used is probably driving that. And a question for you: were you able to tell when they're
No, I don't have any statistics on that yet. That's something we're not collecting right now. But I think there's other things showing that. I think there was a presentation USAMP was showing how they, in their survey, was almost equal or better with voice to text. And I think some of that we have to look at, how often is somebody comfortable. Like if you're sending somebody in a store to do reply about something in the moment, does voice to text really push you a little bit more away from in the moment than text does? Because am I more comfortable in typing an answer right in the aisle or speaking on my device? And so you have to factor those in. So yes.
So these in-app notifications seem to be kind of a new, more popular thing, particularly for moderators. So I'm interested to hear about any feedback that you're getting from moderators as far as, do they feel like it's easier to monitor the board with these notifications? Are they getting overwhelmed with these notifications? What kind of feedback you're getting there?
Yeah, it's separated, right? When moderators use it, they really use it. And then there's a whole bunch of moderators who actually don't use the mobile. They go off the web. Now, the web still works with notifications. Even if you send a response, the participant still gets the notification, so the moderator is not really involved. But for the moderators that have used it, they leverage it heavily. Like it's basically their engagement feedback. If you think about mobile, and when there's a lot of traffic of different channels coming in. I get distracted with, I'm in the middle of a response and I go to Facebook because I've been probed by something that my friend said. And so there's a lot of pull you away. And I think what we need to do from an industry standpoint is we need to gain that back too. So if you're pulled away from Facebook and your friends from my research, I need to be able to pull you back into my research as well. Yes. Is it?
I was going to say, for the sake of time, I'm afraid we're going to move on. So, so thank you very much to Giles.
Thank you.